Who's ready to short Bitcoin? What's going on, guys? It's Ricky with TechBud Solutions. And before I piss you off when it comes down to shorting your glorious Bitcoin, let me explain. So let me first off recap my overall day. Tesla, I ended up shorting it. I went long on it, shorting it, went long on it. If you're part of my LPP team, you saw all of my trades today. I went long as a swing trade, then I shorted it on the way down. I bought to cover, went long, and then shorted it again, and then went long again. Walked away with $95 in the green is what I realized. So quick little disclaimer, I traded with over $250,000. So please make sure that you understand that just because I trade with a specific dollar amount and experience a specific return, just understand the dollar amount that goes behind it, right? So now that that's all said and done, I was getting absolutely roasted. And I appreciate it, right? And please, I want to hear your input. And I know I can't be the only one that's thinking of this. So when Tesla gapped up, I was one of the first people that, well, I can't say I was one of the first people. I don't watch other people's videos, but I very early began to talk to our LPP traders and to a lot of the people that follow me here on YouTube. I brought awareness to these extreme overbought levels. Some people were convinced that Tesla has to go to 400 or 500 and that it doesn't have to pull on back. Now, I can only speak from my experience. Every single time that Tesla pumps, it always dumps. The only reason that it's up here is because of Elon being a part of the Trump administration, and Trump is the president-elect. He earned it. Don't get me wrong, right? He earned this hype, but hype is present because fundamentally, Wall Street was not excited about Tesla for Q4 of 2024 or Q1 of 2025. Tesla, right before this, had the robo-taxi event. It reported earnings. Tesla started selling off, right? It went from highs of 275. It retraced to lows of 240. I was shorting it on the way down, right? If you're part of my LPP team, you saw me make over $25,000 shorting Tesla. It sold off. And then all of a sudden, right? Trump was winning the campaign. He was winning the race. He won. Boom. Tesla skyrockets. It earned it. Don't get me wrong. It earned this hype. But I brought awareness of this extreme overbought stock, which isn't rocket science. Anyone with common sense can look at this on the day chart and be like, hey, this thing is extremely overbought. And if you look at previous patterns, every single time it corrects itself. It rallies, it corrects itself. It rallies, it corrects itself. Now, again, I get it. This time it could be different. I've never experienced when a CEO of a publicly traded company that's the wealthiest man alive and possibly one of the greatest minds of our generation is also now included in this presidential administration. I've never experienced anything like this. So I'm experiencing this for the first time like many of you guys. But one thing I know is true, and it's a fact. Every single time that hype is present in a stock, yes, it's relevant, it holds, but then when it doesn't, when news begins to sink in, when the hype fades, it always ends up correcting itself. Always. I don't care what it is or how hyped up it is or how unique it is. It always corrects itself. That's why it wasn't an if Tesla is going to pull on back. It's just a matter of when. Now, again, I know a lot of you guys get easily offended or triggered. I still think Tesla is in the very, very early stages of, it's still consolidating up here. We have no confirmation of this thing selling off, which is, again, why I'm not entered in a full short swing trade. But I still see pullback potential, but Tesla's not actively selling off. So I get it. It's not, a short worth taking right now. Bitcoin is in its very, very early stages as well. Now, Bitcoin is one I'm very familiar with. I'm not an active crypto trader, right? I'm not here to say that, right? I welcome it. If you have something that you want to share with me in the comment section on why you believe, you don't need to convince me, right? You shouldn't need to convince other people, but why you believe that Tesla or that Bitcoin is going to hold up here, I want to hear it. I want to hear it not because I think you're right, but because I truly want to learn more, right? There's a lot to learn when it comes down to these things, but every single time that Bitcoin pumps, this whole phase happens all over again. It gets a bunch of people interested. A bunch of people get trapped at these extreme overbought and greed areas, and it corrects itself every single time. It becomes overly leveraged, overhyped up. Something happens, market shift, we correct ourselves. It happened back in 2018. It happened once again in 2021, and then again, we're now in 2024. Don't get me wrong. Every single time it pulls on back, it does recover. pulls on back, it does recover. It pulls on back, it does recover. That's not the point. I'm all about getting in for a good deal. And if anyone in their right mind thinks it's a good price at $90,000 per coin, I think that's absolutely mind-boggling. You just have to understand you've missed the train. Now, if you're a trader and you're trying to go from 90 to 100,000, great, right? As long as you know how to manage and mitigate risk, right? Making sure that you're not someone that's going to back hold it all the way back down to 60,000 or all the way back down to 40 or 50,000. Or if it ends up coming back down to 20 or 25,000, we do not know. Do you guys remember what happened last time? It pumped so hard that when it began to sell off, it lost so much of its value that not only individuals were getting margin called, but platforms, FTX went down, and a bunch of other crypto trading platforms that were overly leveraged, borrowed so much money, and were not able to cover the amount of money that they lost. That is the worst position to be in super aggressive at overbought levels. There's nothing wrong with having some skin in the game, but don't get me wrong. It's so important to understand that when we are pulling the rubber band this far apart, it's only a matter of time for it to snap. I think that, and I believe that it possibly could hit 100,000 per coin. I really do. But I know that the profit potential that it offers right now at 90,000 is much less than the risk potential that it offers. Because from 90,000, we can use this little trendline tool and keep it super simple, right? From 90,000 to 100,000, great, 11, 12%. I love that. What's the downside? 50, 60, 70, 80%? That risk to reward ratio just does not make sense. Know when you've missed the train. Or if you're willing to take the risk, I would love to follow up, right? Not because I think I need to be right, because I know I'm not right every single time. I just know that for a fact, every single time that it rallies this strong and it gathers this much hype, once it tips over, it comes crashing down just this fast. And I just don't want you to be someone that buys into the hype, goes through this emotional roller coaster, then you end up cutting losses and then it recovers. When all you really needed to do is wait for it to sell off, buy at a good deal. Doesn't have to be perfect. Tolerate the time that it might take for the stock or the crypto to recover and make money as it recovers. That's simple. You don't have to jump into the hype. Now, don't get me wrong. I get it. It's very exciting. It's so unique right now with what is going on with crypto. Based off of all of the hype and all of the attention, they just automatically assume that this administration is just going to welcome it with open doors. I'm really intrigued to learn more about it and to see that if it does break 100, how much more it can continue to skyrocket. But I just wanted to make sure that, I know there's not many out there, but to make a video just bringing awareness of the risk that comes at these extremely overbought levels. Not because you should be scared to miss out, but because you should be aware of the downside risk. And if you start commenting and saying, well, Ricky, it's common sense that it could pull on back, who wouldn't know that? You would be surprised. We reach thousands of people, and a lot of them are beginners, and a lot of them do not have any form of trade plan. They enter a stock with only the intention of trying to sell it for a profit and no intention of cutting losses or mitigating risk. So please make sure that you formulate your entire trade plan and you ask yourself, is it worth the risk? And only you can decide what position is worth tolerating for the potential for profit that it might offer. So if Bitcoin does begin to sell off, do I plan to short it? Not Bitcoin itself. I don't actually trade Bitcoin. But what is one stock that will sell off if Bitcoin sells off? The two that I've paid attention to is Coinbase, and Coinbase has already been curling on over. Obviously, Coinbase being really heavily focused in crypto. When it rallies, so does crypto. Or when crypto falls, so does Coinbase. And the other one is Robinhood. It's great to be able to identify these stocks, and there's also ETFs that follow crypto directly if those are something that you want to explore yourself. But I think it's very important at these extremely overbought levels to just create a plan of action, not because you need to take the trade, but just in case that opportunity does end up presenting itself, that you know exactly where you plan to enter, where you plan to take profits, and obviously your exposure to risk and what that all breaks down to. So I'm very excited to follow up. This was just the conversation I wanted to have with you guys. I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news. Like I said, crypto doesn't have to crash. Crypto doesn't have to fall. All I know is based off of its history, it does correct itself, and it corrects itself pretty hard. So I think it's just important for beginners to have this conversation with themselves so they're not just sold the idea that it has to rally without the possibility of being very realistic and taking into consideration the downside. I hope that I earned your thumbs up. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. And do not forget, if you want to tune on into my live trading session tomorrow, you can watch me trade live to as little as $1 a day. That's what it breaks down to with the sale we have going on. And if you want to tune on in, it's the second link in the description down below. Like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take care, team.